everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Let's Play It by Ear, featuring me, your host, Joanna, and my co-host, Carrie. Say hello, Carrie.
Hello.
Wonderful. So today we are going to be talking about how to practice for an exam.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of exams throughout our lives. You can have exams ranging from things like the ABRSM
Mm-hmm.
or RCM,
Mm-hmm.
or wherever in the world. There's lots of different types of these kinds of programs where you can test to go into certain grade levels, but then there are also auditions for orchestras, schools.
Mm.
Within the school, once you get in the school, you'll have things called juries,
Yeah.
where they're basically practical exams that you have to take every semester. And then, yeah, just auditions forever. But they're basically all exams. So, Carrie, how do you prepare for an exam? What do you do? What goes through your mind when you know that you have to prepare for one? And then how do you actually go about preparing?
Um, to be very honest, I think my brain has gone a little bit blank right now, which is indicative of how I feel about exams in general. I don't think I test well.
Oh, yeah, me neither, to be
Unless,
fair.
unless it is creative. Like creative
Oh,
writing, like well, essays aren't exactly creative, but I don't mind
yeah.
doing that because like thinking on the spot and organizing my thoughts, that's okay.
Oh.
Going into an exam, I don't feel comfortable.
Mm,
But regardless, you still have to go through it.
yep.
How would I prepare? I think the first thing that I look at is the criteria, what I'm being marked on,
Mm,
just to make sure that I'm checking all of the boxes off, and then what I need to prepare, how I can prepare for them, how much time I'll need to prepare for each element,
yeah.
um, and then chip away at them bit by bit.
Mm,
I think
mm,
in terms of uh, like regulated exams with
mm-hmm,
the like ABRSM and RCM,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think I would focus more on the pieces first, just
Mm.
because they take the most work.
That's
I
true.
think.
That's true. Well, maybe we should explain a little bit to our listeners for people who aren't aware of how these programs work.
That's true.
Do you know what the acronym for ABRSM
Yep.
is?
Associated Boards of the Royal Schools of Music.
There we go. um, RCM is Royal Conservatory of Music. It is based in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one that pretty much all the Canadians use,
Mm-hmm.
is RCM. In, I would say, most of the, like, obviously in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
but also like Hong Kong, a lot of the Asian countries actually use ABRSM.
Yeah.
I grew up with something called CM, Certificate of Merit, and it was only based in California.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was a California-based program, but very similar. And I think I also did something called Guild. I can't remember, but I don't think it was only based in California, but it was an insane program where normally in these programs you have to play what, like two repertoire pieces, and then like one etude or one orchestral excerpt or something like that. Like, it's something like that, two or
Some
three.
something like that. To be
Yeah.
honest,
Mm-hmm.
I've never done an exam for bassoon. I've
Okay.
only ever done the exams for piano.
Oh, well, I mean, it works exactly the same way though.
Yeah, it
Like,
does.
yeah, it so isn't it like three pieces, something like that?
Three. Yeah, so for
Yeah.
yeah, it is three pieces, but I think maybe the younger I don't remember exactly. I'm guessing, so don't quote me
Mm-hmm.
on this. But I think the youngest levels, I think maybe you do like one etude. Uh,
Yeah.
Etudes are studies or what we
Mm-hmm.
call like pieces that help you focus on the technical aspects of playing.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
pieces, your repertoire, you've got maybe two for
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
youngest
something
levels, I
like that.
think. And then as you grow older, as the levels go up higher, you do three.
Yeah. I was in a really crazy one where, if I am not mistaken, I had to memorize 9 songs.
Repertoire and etude combined, or just rep?
Like just
Repertoire.
rep.
Just,
Like
oh,
I don't think there were etudes in there because I was only a little kid, like doing piano.
okay.
But I like we did that for 1 year, and my mom was like, "No more." This is insane. Because my mom has done ABRSM when she
Uh-huh.
was young.
Yeah.
So she was like, what the heck is this program making my children memorize 9 pieces?
How long was the average piece? Or like
Like,
how many
because,
pages?
it's for like little kids playing the piano. So it's like one of those ones that are only like, what, half a minute, 1 minute long,
Okay, but still,
9 of them
9.
for like a little kid. Like,
Yeah.
must have been like 7 or 8.
No, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's like too much. My mom was like, "Oh, nah, bruh, we're not doing this." So I think it was after that we switched over to CM,
Okay.
Certificate of Merit. Yeah, but like, um, yeah. So I thought we'd take a little detour to like
Mm.
explain to our
Hmm.
listeners, what all of these random acronyms are that we are spouting out.
Actually, to drive home the point even further, I have a set of books here from RCM. Would you like to
Wait,
see?
I do too. I'm literally using one as a footstool.
I was about to, but I didn't want to. Oh, what the
This is
enjoyment
the
of music?
enjoyment of music. So
Ooh.
this was for those of you guys who can see this on YouTube, you can see the book that I'm holding up. But for our listeners, I'm holding up a huge textbook that is titled "The Enjoyment of Music." This is the 9th edition. It's probably not the 9th edition anymore these days that kids use, but this was a textbook that was assigned to us to study for RCM, Royal Conservatory of Music, the history test, music history test.
Whoa.
Yep. Yep.
That's a thick textbook.
It's about just as thick as our history textbook
You still
from
have
music
it.
school. Yeah, I layer them so that they're tall enough for me to use as a footstool.
Mm. Okay.
It's probably the world's most expensive footstool,
Yep.
but it works.
It does. Okay.
But I love that you have it right on hand too.
Yeah. Well, because I also don't have a lot of space for my books, so they
Uh-huh.
kind of just all piled up under my desk right now.
Yeah.
But RCM was very generous to
Hmm.
send teachers who have had students do exams in the past year a free set of books of the most updated version, the
Really?
newest version.
That's
So yeah,
amazing.
so I have thank you RCM, all
Yeah.
of the piano ones. I just grabbed a handful. This is not all. This is half of them.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. That
They're
is
very
fantastic.
colorful, as you can tell.
I like how they do that because it makes it very easy for you to
Yeah,
know which level you're picking out
exactly.
from.
So when you
Wow.
go to the music store, you just kind of look at the colors. It's color coded basically by
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
So they have the all the way from prep level to level 10.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I
For
love
piano.
that we have our RCM stuff on
Piano.
hand.
Yeah.
It's so great. We literally just the two of us just like reach down under our desks and just pull up random RCM stuff.
Got bassoon music in here, but not
I
RCM.
love it. I love it. I mean, I have all my flute stuff here too. Like
Yeah.
no one can see my desk right now, but like I have my flute and like my swabs and stuff. They're all just out. Yeah.
Can I see that swab again? It looked high tech. I don't know why.
So I have okay, this is like a complete detour for you guys. So this
Sorry.
is, no, it's totally fine. I'm sure everyone else is also pretty curious. So this is probably the world's like bougiest way of swabbing a flute. Each of these is $50.
They look like twirling batons.
Yeah, so they are what's called like takedown, which means that you can, to store them away, you can unscrew them, so that you can put it in your flute case.
Oh.
And the reason why I like these is because I can swab out my flute without taking it apart.
Huh. Lucky
So
you.
I have two of them, which is completely overkill. I have a flute flag, which for me takes out like 90-ish% of the moisture, but it gets so damp from how slobbery I get the flute that like, it's so damp that it can't get literally everything. So one of my students donated this one to me. This is called a helix wand, and it has like little, like, they're sort of like suede feeling petals, out of the coming out of the rod part of it.
Right.
And so because it has a lot more like texture on here, it can really like soak up the rest of the rest of the condensation and spit, because let's face it, there's spit in there.
It's
Yeah. So the only issue is that the way that the helix wand is designed, unfortunately, I find that if I get too much slobber in my flute, the helix wand, if I only use the helix wand, will just push my slobber all the way up the flute.
Oh, okay.
So I need to have something that can absorb most of it, but this gets it bone dry.
Fine tuning.
Yeah. So this is like probably the bougiest way to swab a flute. Normally people use a stick that comes with the flute that looks like a giant needle and just a random soft cloth. Like that's it. It's nothing fancy. It doesn't need to be fancy, but it's just that, I have my flute out all day teaching students. So like having something like this where I don't have to keep, taking the flute apart to swab it and putting it back together, it just makes it so much easier. Yeah.
I mean, for bassoons, we can never swab it all in one go.
Yeah, I know.
We have to take it apart. I so badly wish we can swab it all in one go. But I mean, I've upgraded from a cotton swab to now it's a silk swab with what's called an emergency exit cord. I think that's pretty fancy. I think that's pretty cool, because I've had my swab stuck in various joints before, and the last time, I've had to go to a repair person to have it cut out and pierced out, basically.
So they had to cut the cloth out?
Yeah. They had a rod that with a very sharp tip, they pierced it and they were able to bring it out. I tried cutting it just to see if I could get it to chip away at it and pull it out.
Yeah.
No.
So. Okay.
Yeah, I had to bring it there, and they recommended the silk swab with an emergency exit cord. So you go back the other way. Right.
Yeah, because it essentially has a cord that's attached to the cloth, right?
Yeah. So both ends.
On both ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
One end is weighted down with a lead weight that's wrapped. And it goes through the instrument, the joint.
Oh, okay.
But if it gets stuck, then you have now the the string on the other side
to get it out.
To get it out.
Oh, that's fantastic. I've totally gotten wow, we're going off topic, but this is really funny. So like, the piccolo, right? So the piccolo is wider on one side than it is on the other. Now this is something that flutists are not used to, because flutists these days are used to the cylindrical body of the flute. So the C flute is the same diameter on the head joint as it is on the foot joint.
Okay.
But not so on the piccolo. The piccolo is wider, wider diameter on the head joint than it is at the foot of the end of the body, really. So a lot of people will swab it out the same way that they swab the flute, and they'll get it stuck. Because they'll get the stick and the cloth stuck, because they're trying to jam it too much of it, because it fits on one side, but it doesn't fit out the other side.
Oh, so when you swab a flute, are you supposed to put the needle through and then pull it out the other way?
No, that's how you do a piccolo.
Oh, I don't
So
know.
the way, yeah, so the way you do a piccolo, because one side is so much thinner, right, is
Hmm.
you have to thread the rod through and pull the cloth with it.
Uh-huh.
Whereas on the flute, you just take the rod
Hmm.
and you thread the cloth through the part that looks like a needle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you actually bunch it over. So you turn the whole thing into like a cloth
Yeah.
covered rod,
Hmm.
and you stuff that into the flute,
Oh, okay.
right? You don't do the rod and then the cloth coming after it.
Mm.
You do that on the piccolo.
Wow.
Yeah. But the reason why you do that on the flute is because the body is cylindrical.
Hmm.
And so you do need the cloth to be bunched up enough to reach the entire barrel, right?
I learned
So
something today.
and so people get it stuck in the piccolo
Yeah.
because like they do it the same way as they do it on the flute and they get stuck. It's the most common piccolo repair. It's the most
Okay.
common one, and it's happened to me before. I
Oh
had to take it.
no.
Yep. That's how I found out that how you're actually supposed to
Oh, okay, okay.
clean it. Yeah, was I brought it in and they're like, "Oh, let me show you how you're actually supposed to clean it." And I was thinking to myself, I really could have been shown how to do this earlier. Like,
That's true.
so
Well, that's why we talk about it now.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Anyway, we should go back to
Yeah,
exams.
to bring it back on topic, I mean,
Yeah.
learning how to clean your instrument and take care of your instrument properly is conducive to your preparation for exams. Because
Yeah.
if you get a cloth stuck in your instrument, then you have to bring
Mhm.
it to a repair person, and that delays your practicing.
Yep.
Or you may
Not
even have
not
to
only
postpone
that,
an exam.
not only that, if we wanted to link exams and repairs together, one of the biggest things that repair people tell you is
Hmm.
to not have your instrument repaired right before an
Yeah.
exam. So they and the reason why they say this is because your instrument will be tweaked enough during
Hmm.
like any sort of maintenance service or something like that. It will be tweaked just enough that it's going to throw you off for the exam.
Yeah. It's gonna feel different.
Yep. So you actually want to just play on your instrument the way it is, unless it is like falling apart, you dented it like crazy, like it's cracked or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Unless it is like an absolute emergency repair, do not bring it in for repairs right before your exam. Like not even a month before or something like that. Like you have to wait until your exam is done and then you take it in for repairs right after the exam.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very common thing that we all do know about. Those of us who are trained musicians.
It's a good tip though. It's good to be reminded of it.
Yeah, it is actually part of the preparation is to know that you don't bring your instrument in for a maintenance servicing. Yep.
Well, aside from that, how would you prepare for your exams?
I mean, well, I did not prepare for them very well when I was younger.
Why?
I was a crammer. So in last week's episode, we talked about the fact that I had practice anxiety. So I did not practice very well. So I just became a super sight reader. And so that made the sight reading portions of these exams very easy for me because they were much easier than the stuff that I normally sight read.
Right.
So like, but I think what I more so did was a mental preparation for the exam. So what I would do is 2 weeks, like, so I was good at this part, which was starting 2 weeks before the exam. I would run through everything that I had to do in the order that I would do it at the exam every day at 10 p.m. And you do it at 9 or 10 p.m. so that you work your body until it's tired. And the idea is that if you can do it while you're tired, you'll be fine during the exam. And it takes 2 weeks to build a habit. So by the time you get to the exam, your body is used to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of the like mental preparation that I would do. And that's how I would prepare for exams. Was just run through it at least once a day at the most tired point of the day.
That's just like endurance training then.
It was endurance training. So I would do endurance training because the reason is because I noticed that I would get tired playing that stuff while I'm playing.
Yeah. And
like
if you can push through then
exactly.
You can.
Mm-hmm. And like if my body gets used to it and gets used to that endurance, then I won't get tired during the exam, which would take out basically an extra like possible, negative situation out of the whole, exam experience, right? Like essentially what I'm trying to do is take out as much of the negative variables as possible, right? And me getting tired or losing focus was definitely one of the negative variables that I like thought of, you know. So I totally did prepare for it in a crammer's style, which I don't really, I don't recommend cramming, but I do recommend the endurance training.
Yeah.
The endurance training was fantastic. I did that for my juries. I did that for my my like third year and fourth year recitals. I did that for pretty much any audition that I ever did. I always did an endurance training 2 weeks prior.
That's really useful, actually. That's something that I don't think I've ever done, and I wish I would have done.
It's very useful.
Yeah, I think maybe mishmashing the two of our ways would be pretty good, because I would. I remember I think I did for a student in preparation for an audition. Like I wrote out a schedule. This is what we're going to try and work on. These are the movements we're going to tackle. This is what we're going to try and improve on.
Yep.
And then add to it the next lesson. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
But never really planning enough time to kind of run through everything.
Yeah.
Consecutively for a week or so.
I would do it for 2.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Consecutively for 2 weeks, every day, no break. Like, it's really one of those like 2-week challenges, that type of thing. Yeah. And I always found that really helped because it made it so that by the time you're actually at the recital, by the time you're actually at the exam, it's just muscle memory.
Yeah, it is.
So you could say I was practicing. You could say that. But in my mind, it's not true practicing. True practicing is problem solving. It's figuring out what's happening. It's, like experimenting, that type of thing, which you are not doing when you're endurance training, okay? No. You're not doing any of this. That's probably why I was good at endurance training, was because I wasn't doing true practicing.
But I think also in terms of true practicing, you would also want to get to a certain point where you are actually enjoying the music too.
Yeah. And if you
enjoy the process, then you can keep doing it. Otherwise, you get turned off it.
Exactly. Like that is what I'm working on now. That is actually my current project right now, is to find a way to play the Ibert concerto, which is what I've been studying for the past 3 years. I'm now it's just the cherry on the top now to master this piece, which is to be able to play it in a way that's fun, expressive, and like I'm just making it up, that's what I was missing before.
Yeah.
Like I would play everything very mechanically,
That's not quite music.
Yeah, exactly. The only things that I did not play mechanically were either very strange music that like no one could really teach me, and thus I was teaching myself. And so I played those very expressively because I actually knew what I was doing. Or wind quintet music, because I could imagine playing with other people and it would inspire me to be like, musical and stuff like that. Like I had references basically for how
Yeah.
to be musical,
Yeah.
but like I had no reference for myself though of how to be musical. So yeah, that's my current project right now,
Yeah.
as of October 2022, at the time that we're recording this.
Very, very current.
Yeah, very current. So like, but yeah, I totally was missing that before. I wish I did that.
Yeah. But I think the takeaway, well, actually, I think I learned something from this episode. I hope those of you who are watching and listening, you did so too, even though we went on a massive tangent talking about cleaning our instruments, but that we learned something through that too, hopefully.
Exactly. Yeah.
But my takeaway from this is actually if you know you have an exam coming up, back up all the dates and start preparing
Yes.
like a year in advance because
Yes.
there's so much you need to do, so much you need to cover. If it's your first exam, you're gonna learn from that. You probably won't start preparing until maybe half a year at best, or
At
a few
best.
months
Yep.
before the exam. That's okay.
Yep.
It's all a learning experience, but what I'm hearing is that you really, really have to look ahead and know the amount of preparation that you have to do.
Yep. Like when you put it in that perspective, suddenly 3 years to study a single piece is not actually that long.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that you need 3 years to prepare for an exam.
Yeah. But
Maybe at the highest
something
levels.
exactly. Something on the level of the Ibert Concerto taking 3 years to study is actually not that surprising, considering that the types of music that you prepare for like a year for an exam is considerably easier.
Yeah.
So like, a lot of people look at that timeline of like, oh my God, can I play the same thing for a year? And
Yes.
it's like, one, yes, because, maybe a better way of looking at it. And this is the most common question I get regarding the Ibert Concerto. I get it from all my students and my stream. They're always like, we love seeing you, get better, but how are you so tenacious? Like, how are you still doing this without just getting bored? And I'm like, well, here's the thing is that the end goal actually has nothing to do with the Ibert. The end goal is to make myself better.
It's bigger than the piece you're working on.
Yeah. So the Ibert is a means to an end. It is
Right.
not the end. Whereas I would say that a lot of people study music with the intention that mastering it is the end. But there's no end to it.
That's a very good point. And once you let's not say master that part of yourself, improve that part of yourself, you're going to find another area that you want to improve on, and then you can find another piece. So the piece is very much the vehicle
Yes.
to help you on the journey of improving, as cliche as that sounds.
Yeah. But it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that the Ibert is so multifaceted that you can work on many different things on the same piece.
Yeah. And maybe through that too, you'll find different scale exercises or etudes or technique exercises that you need to help supplement your practicing to make the Ibert even better and therefore yourself even better.
Exactly. Like that's how I finally had to learn how to do ascending chromatic scales in minor thirds.
Ooh.
Because there is no other piece that I have ever had to practice that.
Okay.
Right. Like new pieces with challenging things will make you realize what you actually have to practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, wow, I can do that now. And I could do it really fast now. There was a point in time I couldn't even do it slow.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, because like the Ibert is not the end goal. So Me being better is the end goal.
Actually, I think that's a very important way of viewing exams in from my perspective at least.
It's not
Um,
the end goal.
exactly. The mark that you get on an exam
Mm-hmm.
is not the be all end all.
Exactly.
It is important that you do well. It's
Mm-hmm.
important, maybe more important that you put in the effort to do
Yes.
as well as you can.
Yep.
Even if you fail, okay, sure. That's okay because
Yeah.
you tried, right? And then
Exactly.
you're going to learn from that
Mm-hmm.
experience. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if the mark of the exam or attaining a certain level, a certain grade,
Mm-hmm.
is it for you,
Yep.
then you're going to feel very lost after that, I think, because you're not
Yeah.
going to know where to go next.
Exactly.
Whereas if you view that as a platform for you to start from, and
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go to the next
Mm-hmm.
level, or that just means you're going to want to keep improving on yourself.
Exactly. Because this
Ooh.
is actually like very multifaceted because the
Yeah.
exam itself can be a wonderful learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you deal with your nerves? What are your quirks in terms of how do your nerves show up,
Mm-hmm.
right? That kind of knowledge is very, very important because everyone's nerves show up in a different way.
That's
And
true.
knowing how yours shows up is really good information for you because
Mm-hmm.
you'll know, you can kind of predict then how you're going to respond in another high stakes situation,
Yeah.
right? So, like high pressure, high stakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, so it's in it of itself is a fantastic learning experience. So it definitely is not an end goal,
Yeah.
right? And also usually at exams, the adjudicator will have little written notes for you,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I've done this myself. I've been the one, Carrie knows,
Yeah.
I've been the one adjudicating exams.
Mm-hmm.
And like I am writing that as the adjudicator, I am writing it with the intention of helping this person learn.
Yeah.
You know, of
Absolutely.
like, hey, you did great on these things. Now here are some things for you to think about, you
Yeah.
know, like and consider in whatever it is that you're playing after this, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And like it's it's really it is also like you say it is a vehicle, it is a vehicle of learning. Like exams are a fantastic checkpoint.
Mm.
To it's like you're in a game and you pass a certain checkpoint, you know, you
Right.
haven't finished the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? You haven't gotten to the end of it, but you got to a checkpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like up until that point you've accumulated certain skills,
Mm.
right? And then after that point you will accumulate more skills on top of the ones that you just learned how to do,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes you might fail afterwards, which is fine. You just go right back to the checkpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and who cares? Like, that's how you learn,
Yeah.
you know? I am literally playing a game right now where I'm just dying all the time
Oh.
because like I'm essentially memorizing how to do the next bit. But you get better every single time. You like get further every time because you're essentially on the spot memorizing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you are every time you die, well you lose all your lives that is, you you come back to that checkpoint, you know? So like exams are kind of like that where
Yeah.
like you know it doesn't matter if you failed it,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to block you from trying again.
Yeah, they're going to encourage you to try again,
Yeah,
actually.
like even if you fail, like okay, honestly no one cares that you failed.
Mm.
No one cares at all. So it's just take whatever comments they give you,
Mm-hmm.
learn from it and try again.
Yeah.
You can treat it like a game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're gonna do better the next time because you know how it goes.
Yeah.
You know, like the first time is always gonna be a shock to the system because you just don't know what's about to happen. It's like in a game when you walk into a boss fight and you didn't even know the boss fight was gonna happen, and then suddenly you're having to memorize this boss's new moves and stuff like that, you know, and you have to like observe and stuff like, and you know you don't know what you're doing, you die, and then you come back in and you're like, okay, I know what this guy does, right?
Yeah.
But it's exactly the same for exams.
Yeah.
Is like your second exam is always going to be way easier than your first exam,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you'll literally part of the preparation of an exam is to do another exam.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is actually the best way to prepare for an exam. My mom actually like got me to submit my resume to a different music like a music store to teach the flute.
Okay.
So she was like, hey, send in your resume here. Like if they call you in for a whatchamacallit, like an interview, that's great. But she's like, just treat it like you're doing it, like treat this as practice for where you actually want to submit your resume.
Yeah, it's like a test run.
Yeah, exactly. And then she even did this for an audition too. Like when I first moved to Vancouver, I actually auditioned for the Delta Youth. And then but with no intention of actually going. um I won the audition by a landslide, and then I said no. But so I auditioned for them, but with the intention that this was a test run audition before auditioning for Vancouver Academy of Music.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, but my mom had like, this is actually how my mom has trained my brother and I to take exams. You take an exam and you prepare for an exam by taking an exam.
Yeah.
Where the first exam is a throwaway.
Stepping stones.
Yeah. So like that is a legitimate way to prepare for an exam, is to just treat the first one as a throwaway.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You're paying for an experience. You're paying for preparation for the real one.
Yep. But each experience is a learning experience.
My mom is pretty darn smart. I'm the more I think about how she brought my brother and I up, the more I'm like, wow, that's pretty smart. You know?
Yeah. I think you should call her after this and say, "Oh, Mom, you're so smart."
Yeah. I have told her that
Okay.
like there are lots of things that my mom has said that like, just makes so much sense. And this is one of them. Driving exam was the same thing. She was also like, who cares? Just fail your first one.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, as we grow older, we'll come to realize that our parents were right on quite a lot of things.
Yeah. Oh.
Well,
there you
maybe
go.
on this note, we should say a big thank you to all the parents out there. Thank you. And a good place to wrap up, I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this 4th episode, talking about exam preparation. We hope that you've managed to take some things away with you, even though we talked about some kind of unrelated things, but still important things.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with us through this episode. Let's see. If you want to listen to more, you can find us on Facebook at Let's Play It by Ear Podcast, or Instagram, also Let's Play It by Ear Podcast, and on Twitter as well. Our handle is at let_ear. And then you'll also find us on anchor.fm. It's anchor.fm/ Let's Play It by Ear -podcast. And then if you want to reach out to us, feel free to send us an email, and we'd love to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions, concerns, stories, anything. You can email us at letsplayitbyear.podcast@gmail.com.
Perfect.
letsplayitbyear.podcast@gmail.com. That's our email address. And you can also check out our website, letsplayitbyear.com. We'll have the most updated episodes there. You can also read up a little bit on Joanna and myself. And also you should be able to find the previous seasons as well too.
Yep.
Have fun browsing.
Yeah.
And we will see you in the next episode. Take care in the meantime.
Lovely.
See
you, everyone. Bye.